Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
And good afternoon, everyone. Phil Penarski here with the Wood TV Live Desk. Hope you're having a great day so far. This past Sunday, News 8 digital reporter Matt Jarowski released his latest Sunday story, and in this incredible article has to deal with a man who claimed to be named Daniel West, and really kind of everything that surrounded his this criminal investigation into really kind of understanding if he was who he claimed to be. Turns out he really wasn't. Matt joins us now to talk a little bit more about that story. Matt, it's great to see you. Kind of wanted to talk a little bit about it, kind of structure it a little bit, kind of leave people a little bit on edge, talking about this man who claimed to be Daniel West. Talk to us about who this man was pre-1964.
Yeah, sure. So really quick, just some quick background. The person that we're talking about here, it was interesting when I was writing the article because I actually talked to my editor about this of like, we have to put his name in quotes because that's technically not this person's name. And really, we don't know who this person was. So they were going by the name Daniel West, and they were a state lawmaker. They were elected by one district in Detroit. This person served a term and was elected to a second before this whole scheme kind of fell apart. So this is what we do know. When West was first elected, he told everyone, like, well, I'm from Tennessee, I got my law degree from Yale, and I'm a practicing lawyer, and now I live here in Wayne County, and I'm here to serve my community. So he was elected, he served one office. The local historian that I talked to kind of called him a backbencher. Like, it's kind of more of a behind-the-scenes guy, wasn't really that active. He believed that this person who was posing as Daniel West ran to be a state legislator to kind of add his own little gravitas and bring in more victims for his scamming.
Mm-hmm. Right, and the story is really incredible. I mean, it really reads kind of like a movie or like a novel of, kind of like a whodunit, but really it's more of a who is this? And it was really interesting to see that, come 1964, 60 years ago at this point, that it was kind of discovered that, maybe this guy who's a state legislator who, has an important role in this community isn't who he says he is, and he's been lying to people all this time. I mean, what really tipped off investigators back in 1964 that, something might be going on here? Yeah.
So in hindsight, there are a lot of things that don't quite add up. But what we know is what kind of started it. This is right after he got elected to a second term. Someone came forward claiming that West basically shorted them on their tax refund. So West claimed he was a practicing lawyer, but he also practiced as an accountant. And this was kind of his really key scam, is he was cheating people on their tax returns. He would, calculate up their taxes, and he would say, oh, you're going to get $100. From the IRS as a refund, when he was really getting $200 and keeping half of that for himself. So someone, whether they looked at the numbers and thought it wasn't quite right, they had it double checked, and they went to the police, and who said, hey, something's not right here. We should look into this guy. It was Detroit PD. They had a division that started investigating these claims. They found more people that were kind of leery of him, and so they brought this person in for questioning at one point. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly what the protocol was, but the person posing as Daniel West had his fingerprints taken, and that is what blew the case wide open. They quickly realized this guy is a convicted felon. He's served prison time. He's been charged with crimes in like 3 different states. What's going on? Mm-hmm. And so right as this is all kind of boiling over and people are wondering who this is, he disappears. So the legislator convenes for the first time that year. They refuse to seat him. It's the only time in the history of our state that's actually happened. And he's never seen again. That's the story. We don't know where he went. Assuming he was the age that he was telling people at the time he was elected, he'd be roughly 110 years old today. So theoretically, this person could still be alive. He's probably not, but it's possible he could still be out there and no one would know.
Right. Well, and I mean, he lied about who he was. Maybe he lied about his age too. But
right.
As you mentioned, after he kind of got found out, it's been 60 years, and there's been no real trace of this guy ever since then. I mean, what have we kind of found out, if anything, really, in that time period?
Yeah, there were a couple people, a handful of sightings. There was one person, according to a report from the Detroit Free Press, someone who had worked on his campaign team, of all things, claims that they saw him like 10 years later at a restaurant in Windsor, Ontario, on the other side of the river. They spotted him, they made eye contact, and West, or whoever this imposter was, got up and left the restaurant, like didn't order any food, just ran out of there. That's really kind of like the last known sighting of this person. We don't know where they went, whatever happened to them. And the interesting thing is, too, is they found out because they were digging back into his past, too. We know it was Minnesota and Iowa and Virginia, I believe, are where he had committed other crimes. And so they're digging into his criminal records, but all the names on those records are false, too. So they don't know who this person was.
Yeah, no, there really just doesn't seem to be any kind of evidence to potentially link him back to somebody or anything like that.
There's so many things that are unknown, and we're never gonna know.
Right, exactly. I think that was kind of the big thing about the story is that, yeah, theoretically he could still be alive, but I mean, just an really bizarre turn of events in this story, Matt. And I mean, you talked to a lot of people to make this story happen. I guess, from your interviews and putting together this story, I mean, what kind of stood out the most to you about this story? Was it just how bizarre this was, how this man was able to get away with so much with, really just kind of just saying whatever he wanted?
Yeah, it's really a piece of the times. It's hard to imagine something like that happening today, although there are certain instances where that may be true. Right. But it's just different in the way things are handled. I know the historian I talked to, so apparently West, he had claimed kind of he had all these jobs and all this experience, but it was stuff that like you couldn't really track it down. Now, obviously today is different because we have, with the internet and social media and all these other things, you can kind of try to double check some things. But he claimed he was like the Public Works Commissioner for a time in the Virgin Islands, and in the 1960s, who are you going to call to double check? It's little nuggets like that. And then one of the really interesting things that stood out to me was the news coverage at the time. So as this is all folding out, police are looking for this guy, but journalists at the time are also digging into this guy and trying to figure out what's happened, where is he. So you have journalists that are staking out his homes. There was like two places where he where he lived or was known to live, and so we have journalists staking out their homes and talking to his neighbors and all these things. And most of the neighbors weren't even aware of who he was. There was one person they talked to, he said they talked politics for a few minutes, and he didn't realize he was a state lawmaker. He said he thought he was the garbage man because he was standing near a garbage truck. So little things like that, like there's so much here that we don't know. It's really bizarre.
Right. No, it is one of those stories that I think, every time we write an article here at News 8, we're trying to, answer all the questions that a lot of people probably have. But this is a story where all of the questions you might have actually make the story.
Right. No, for sure. It's just one of those things that to dig in through the legislature's archive, there's so many materials and historic stuff. And his picture's still there, his name's still there, his little job description. There's a little clip out of it, in the article. It's like, this is in the books. This really happened.
Right, absolutely. Well, it is an absolutely incredibly compelling story that people can find right now, but just by heading on over to our website, woodtv.com. If you're watching us on Facebook, highly encourage you to do so. We've got links to that story right now in both the description box and in the comments section. Matt, thank you so much for stopping by today. It was great to see you again.
Always. Thank you, Phil.
Of course. And I want to thank everybody else for tuning in to this latest edition of the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm Phil Penarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.